Well, we had a good, interesting weekend this past Saturday. Good time was had by all, I think. You guys were there.
Freaking throwback to the high school days.
What happened Saturday? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Neither can my wife.
I was like, I know somebody who can't remember.
No, we
This
had a
is
blast.
bullshit. This is bullshit. Who am I?
This is some bullshit.
That was funny.
That
dude.
was funny. So we had a little arcade party at my place this weekend where I set up a bunch of machines and we ran a Miss Pac-Man tournament. So good time was had by all. Like I said, I think everybody had fun. A lot of drinking, a lot of pizza eating. It was just kind of a.
Well, one of us did a lot of drinking.
One of us did do a lot of drinking. My poor wife got started early and finished early.
She found the bottoms of a lot of drinks.
Well, the one what got her going so fast was she didn't have anything on her stomach. She didn't eat, so she's throwing back this wine. And I guess if you ever drink with Michelle, it's like once that arm starts working and it gets to a certain point,
Right.
There's no shutting it off. We're going till pass out.
I was just happy that the embarrassing person wasn't me.
There
For
you
once.
go. Yeah.
For once. No, it was fun. She had a good time. We all had a good time. There was about 12 of us there, and we had some prizes, a little tournament working, and one of our friends that's going to remain nameless because he's not on the podcast won the tournament, and it was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed putting that on.
Yeah, I met a lot of people that I'd never met before.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we have a lot of social media circles that we don't really know who they are except profile picture and how they and what they write.
Right.
And when you get to meet them, person to person, that's kind of cool.
It is. It's always fun to.
You get to put a face to a words. And
Exactly.
stuff.
One, you can have that a conversation when you have it face to face is way more different than when you have it online. So
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and we got my wife out of the house, which is a good thing.
we did. It was. I think she had a good time. She seemed to be enjoying herself.
Right.
So
Is that Lucy over there whining?
it is. She's over. She's in the corner. Somebody put baby in the corner.
Yeah. Well, she'll lay down and take a nap here in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
She just wants to get in on the mic. So
that's exactly it. Well, it's funny because so we did a podcast last week Thursday.
right.
All right, Lucy, chill over there. And so we figured we'd roll another one of our Monday podcasts.
Trying the Monday thing again.
Because it's funny because even in the short news cycle between the last podcast we did and today, some of the craziest shit just rolls up. I mean, and then when we get together for lunch, it's kind of how we start to frame the show.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, we look at a lot of different websites we've already talked about, and we listen to other podcasts, but the one that really jumped out was this Eddie Murphy thing.
Yeah, we're going to start it with Eddie.
Yeah, because, so I guess Eddie's on the apology tour now.
Working the apology. That's exactly what I was going to say. Working the apology tour.
I don't understand it because, so apparently this is over things he said in Delirious and Raw and a lot of his comedy skits.
Shit that's like over 20
yeah.
years.
80, in the 80s. It was the early 80s when he ran all this stuff. And it's funny because when we just did the Chappelle Show thing, what was that, like 2 sessions ago, 3 sessions ago, whatever it was. It's funny because we said, I wonder if Eddie Murphy's ever going to have to come back and apologize for this stuff. And sure enough, it wasn't 3 weeks later, and here we are, and he's out running the apology tour.
Well, it just so happens I just got finished listening to another Drinking Bros podcast where they were interviewing another stand-up comedian. And I didn't know who the guy was, but it was John Stites. But he lives in the stand-up world. So he keeps track of all the stand-up comedians and what they're doing presently because he does something called like Operation Comedy. It's some kind of a I don't know if it's a non-profit thing, but anyway, he does these like comedy shows, and Eddie Murphy popped up in the conversation where people were asking hey I'd really like to see Eddie Murphy make a comeback, yada yada this, and he and Ross Patterson both said the reason why he doesn't really do this because he doesn't fucking have to.
Yeah,
right?
no, that guy's
dude's like loaded,
as Ron White would say.
But when y'all tell me this morning about this this deal where he's going back on this, he's starting this apology tour, and that kind of makes me wonder, hey, has he agreed to do something?
Yeah, there's got to be something in the pipe.
This is one of his things he has to do for penance.
Right.
So.
Well, I'm wondering if the Chappelle thing brought him out. Having the Chappelle got all this press after he after he had the show, and then the LGBT community picked up on it and tried to force him to apologize, which he didn't, which I'm very impressed with.
I gotta say though, I'm seeing a pattern here. Okay, and see if you guys can pick up on it. They went after Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
They went after Dave Chappelle.
Yep.
Now they're going after Eddie Murphy.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the pattern here?
It's the new clan.
They're all black comedians.
Yeah. Well, I
okay.
mean, now here's that's
racist in a sense right there.
It is.
Now this isn't exactly a recent interview, but when I guess it was a few months back where you turned us on to F is for Family,
Right?
Yeah,
which is a Bill Burr comedy, and I happened to catch an interview that was done, and this was like done in probably late 2018, probably like November. But anyway, a show in New York called Good Morning New York or something along those lines. They interviewed him it was early in the morning because that was one of the
So he hadn't had his coffee yet.
Well, and see, the thing was, the reason why morning was so important is so the female host brought up something that appears in the show, or at least in one of the episodes she saw, where Bill Burr's character, Frank, bashes on the Catholic Church. And
There's a lot of Catholic jokes within. I've watched the series up to this point. So, it's a very funny series. The humor, I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the next season.
And I do too, because I like Bill Burr.
Yeah, but he's just a funny guy.
But she made a particular point to bring up something about bashing the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Which I'm like, that is, if you make sure that you're not feeding a great white shark.
Yeah.
It's everybody can feed the fish, but know when you're feeding a fucking shark.
Right.
This dude's going to come back at you.
So he perked up when she started in.
And that's exactly what he did, because she made a comment about, did they sort of did there have to be a lot of Catholic jokes, blah, blah, blah. Or people are saying, well, the first thing he's going to say, who's the fuck's saying this?
Right.
Now, because it was that morning, he's not going to say fuck on there. But
right.
He's going to ask.
That's his attitude.
Yes. Who said
he's thinking it, yeah.
And he's like, do we really start a conversation like this off at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Well, it's funny. So the Catholic Church, he's offended because the Catholic Church gets bashed on by this guy and by everybody else.
Yeah.
But they put themselves in the news.
Catholics make fun of themselves, though. Every Catholic I know tells Catholic jokes.
They're in the news all the time. So when a comedian is going to write material, he's going to try to link to an audience.
Right.
What? And he brought up the thing that they're most famous for in 20th century is the fact that, hey, you were fucking off in altar boys. Yeah. So that was one of his replies is, is it so bad that I jumped on the Catholic Church about, in my little shtick, what did the Catholic Church do to these boys? So that was kind of his way back at it.
Right. So how did he leave it with her in the end? Was it sour grapes or?
It was
just kind of ha ha ha?
It was kind of ha ha.
Yeah.
But there was clearly an uncomfortableness left with the host, because I told you about the male host. He throughout the interview, I guess to try to butter Bill up to get her away from the girl, he would almost do this like journalistic way of dropping to your fucking knees and slobbing the knob on freaking Bill Burr.
Well, it's funny because Bill Burr doesn't give a shit.
No, he doesn't.
How many times have we watched interviews with him where he doesn't care if it's awkward for you?
Right. No, it doesn't matter to him.
He's like, hey, why am I even here? If you're going to be this much of a puss, why am I here?
Okay, to tangent off of the puss comment, there's some stand-up comedian named Theo Vaughn. Mm-hmm. Do you know who he is? Mm-hmm. I'd never heard of this dude.
I've never heard of him.
So anyway, Theo Vaughn has a podcast where Bill Burr, and he must be kind of a big deal because Bill agreed to come on to his show. Okay. Well, this dude got all kind of fucking weepy and shit.
A comedian got weepy?
At least this guy did.
Okay.
And man, it was like blood in the water. Because for Bill, Bill's like, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You're getting all emotional over this and that, and it was funny to watch. I mainly stayed because I was about to. Who doesn't want to watch a shark eat?
Right, exactly. Every time when the eyes roll back and the teeth come out,
and he has this like sly smile on, like, you just keep feeding me fucking meat, man.
That's what I don't understand about people that get on these comedians like Bill Burr. I mean, how much more of a warning, I mean, can you get before you go to a show? Even Chappelle gave you fair warning.
Told you right at the beginning.
Yeah, what's going to happen.
Buttercup.
It's jokes, people. It's just humor. And so Mel Brooks has been a big advocate about how PC has killed comedy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, look, you know, I mean, that's our stock in trade. The thing between decency and sanity is being able to laugh at yourself.
It's the vent, man. You've got to, it uncorks pressure to be able to laugh at yourself. I laugh at me all the time. We all know that. I'm so self-deprecating, especially in person. We're like these parties and stuff. Dude, that's just a way to uncork all that stress. I mean,
it's just kind of sad. I don't know.
The people are taking that vent away. That's the sad part about it. People are getting, you know, maybe that kind of speaks to the intensity of where we are in society. Just all this PC stuff that's going down.
Kind of what I was thinking. You know, so we, like I said, when we chart these shows out, we kind of have some sort of order to it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
But sometimes we have to just break that order.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably one of those things where we talk a little bit maybe about some of this escalating violence.
Yeah.
You know, because we're seeing a lot of it. It's funny because, so we really try hard not to drone on about just the everyday political stuff you see in your face. We really do try to make fun of it, but sometimes you don't get that chance. I mean, we're looking at, you know, as we're looking through some of the things we're talking about, we get these just crazy shit that happens, right?
Yeah.
And it just feeds itself. And Antifa seems to keep coming up into this.
Those guys just won't go away, man.
You know, and it's funny because they hide under the expression of their rights under the First Amendment.
Right.
And what they do is they're escalating violence upon people that have a differing viewpoint.
Right.
And it's kind of the root of kind of the same things that go back to these comedians or anybody that speaks in public that doesn't like what you're saying.
Well, and the difference between people have just use the word protest now, and they don't use the word that went with it that is originally intended for, which is peaceable protest.
Right.
Peaceable seems to be dropped out. When you look at like the 60s and you look at the hippies, you know, hippies for the most part harmless. They might make a mess. They might smell. It might be annoying. But, dude, they peaceably assembled. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You never got beat up. You never walked through a crowd of hippies and beard.
Harsh, man.
Yeah.
Well, they're
dude.
usually stoned and they're having sex. I
Right.
remember in East Texas, there was this, remember the Rainbow People?
Yeah, I do.
So they come passing through Lake Sam Rayburn and overtook Ebenezer Park, I think it was. And you can drive through there and they're having sex on the hood of the car. They're having sex on the picnic bench. They're stoned and they're wading in the water. You know, pretty much just frolicking.
That's what you call that again sex. Again,
Yeah.
Again this, again that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And there was no violence whatsoever. Now, there was a couple ODs.
Yeah.
But there was really, I mean, there was none of that.
That's the self-inflicted stuff that it's like, I don't give a damn.
Right, exactly.
You know,
so, yeah.
I mean, I do, but I don't.
But
you did it to yourself.
Right. So now, though, what ends up happening is, and it's rolling over into other cities. Chicago is getting some of that because we were just talking about an execution-style murder of a 9-year-old up there. And
I don't know the details on it. I heard.
We didn't deep dive it, but it was something that caught our eye when we were looking at this.
But it's in the news and it's in your face. But so you have this whole thing going on in Portland, and a lot of people think, oh, it's a Portland thing. Well, not really, because you're looking at if you wear a hat.
Yeah.
It used to be if you wore a certain kind of shoes, you were attacked and killed for your shoes.
Yep.
Yeah, the whole Jordan thing.
Yeah, the whole Jordan thing. And then now it's if you wear anything that a particular person takes exception to, they excuse the reasoning behind it is, well, I was offended and I'm going to take action against that. And so what they do is they perpetrate harm amongst other people for this.
Right.
And what's really sad is they're protected basically by a political party.
They are.
And they're also basically protected by the law.
Yeah, they don't seem to want to prosecute them. You hear so many times and see so many videos of where people are hit in the face with objects, heavy objects, bricks, baseball bats, frozen drinks.
Yeah, it's like frozen drinks.
Yeah. What do they call that term?
Milkshaking.
Milkshaking, yeah.
It didn't bring all the boys to the yard, apparently.
Right.
But
Not the boys you want.
I was getting ready to say.
But you'll see these videos where somebody will get popped in the head with one of these devices that they've implemented. And the cops are right down the street and nothing happens. Well, it's been the modus operandi for the last year and a half.
They take a report.
Yep.
And they file the report, and then nothing gets done. I mean, we just had a murder of a Harris County sheriff's deputy. Yeah, of a guy that was a multiple repeat offender.
Right.
You know, and it just walked up behind him and shot him in the back of the head twice. I mean, that's just... And then he went to the ice cream parlor, sat down, was eating ice cream.
Yeah, that's messed up, man.
Dude, I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, you know, and so what ends up happening is that somebody, if you ask yourself, well, what if I witnessed that? What would I do?
Yeah.
You know, he was a partner of, right?
What?
He was partner of. He was the deputy partner of the sheriff that got shot at that gas station.
Oh, go forth. Yeah.
I did not know that. I remember that was about a year
Yeah,
ago.
go for it. Yeah.
So the night I went to celebrate my birthday,
Wow.
I met the guys at Lone Pint Brewery out in Magnolia, and I didn't realize at the time that there was a go forth kind of thing going on while I was there. So one of the ladies who's like really heavily involved with it, plus the guy that you met, Bradley.
Yeah.
So he's involved with it too. So they happened to come up to our table and they had this discussion while I was there about, because we had just found out the deputy had been shot. So yeah,
Wow.
I didn't realize. So they said that. So where the deputy that was shot at the gas station at Telge and West.
Yeah, that's right. I've been to that gas station a ton of times.
Well, because our buddy Marlon used to live.
Well,
right
I used to live over there.
Yeah. So, but anyway, basically where his partner was shot, and then where this most recent sheriff's deputy was shot this past Friday, it was
pretty
like
close proximity.
1 point something miles.
Yeah.
Between their deaths. And
Wow,
man, it is so sad because that guy's.
Oh, and the dude was like a real trailblazer when it came to the sheriff.
He was one of the first Sikhs that was on the sheriff's department.
Dude was like a stand-up dude.
Very stand-up dude. You know, they showed a lot of pictures of him in the community with kids and stuff like that.
I've seen him personally around. I mean,
have you?
Yeah, it really bugged me when I saw that. I really, that one kind of really got to me a little bit.
Yeah,
because I saw him at a Chick-fil-A on 290. And I saw how he was interacting with the kids and everything. And I was like, well, that's a pretty cool dude. Then you see him around the community a lot. You know? Because he's a Sikh and he stands out.
Yeah, I mean, you know those guys when you see them. And they're renowned warriors. Those guys are no joke, man.
I'm a huge fan of those guys.
Yeah.
Because they're duty bound to carry their little daggers.
Oh,
and fight those guys. But anyway.
We had Sikhs also in the army. And like he was able to stay true to his faith. And the Harris County worked with him on this, trying to find some common ground.
He was the first one.
Yeah. So he was paving the way for all the other people, all the other people from the communities who want to be a part of the law enforcement or be just a part of the fabric of Houston or Harris County.
And so if you're listening and you're in the area and want to do something for the family, there's a lot of GoFundMes out there.
Lots of GoFundMes.
I think Papa John's is doing a whole day of profit goes to that family.
Wow.
Adriatic Cafe.
Yeah, Adriatic Cafe is another one. Yeah. So I mean, because he had a wife and 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
It was 3 kids, and you just hate to see that happen. But again, so you have this escalation of violence in the communities, and it's not just Portland anymore. So what you end up doing is you end up having. We talked about the protection by political parties and local law enforcement. And then now you have you're inhibiting the freedom of movement of a civil and orderly society, in lieu of these people, because what they decide to do is they want to have a protest, and the protest spills over into people that are in the audience, And so we've seen example after example where they've picked on elderly people or older people.
They generally pick a soft target. They never go after. Ever so often you'll see the 3%ers and those guys clash, but it's generally when one of the others decides to force it on them. When they show up, it's generally you see that one-sided. You don't see 3%ers showing up. Not that I'm defending what those guys do, because there's some screwballs in that organization.
Those organizations usually draw them in.
The thing is, there's lots of screwballs that are involved in no organization.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But my point being is, you never see that group go after the elderly. It's always these guys that's picking the soft target.
The thing that bothers me is the fact that they're asking you to suspend common sense in public. And what I mean by that is you have a group of people wearing hoods and masks. That are massing in public. Now, if you're protesting something, usually you want to be seen and heard. Okay. If I see somebody with hoods and face masks on, my mind tells me that there's bad intention coming.
Yeah, you were covered up for a reason.
Yeah, you're covered up for a reason. And this is what I don't understand about how they can allow assembly, because it used to be you would have to file for a permit.
Yeah.
To march and protest.
Right.
But if you want to really stroke the fur backwards instead of fighting them, rip the fucking mask off.
Well, that happens. That has happened.
Well, you saw we had an incident where several were arrested at one point, and they were unmasked, and their pictures were put on.
Absolutely.
There was like 30 of them.
And they were all upset. You've destroyed our identity. What are you going to do? You know, basically, you've ruined our anonymity here. And it's like, so
you're not free from the consequences of your fucking
so
actions.
When you're arrested, it becomes public record.
Exactly.
And public record can be published by anybody. It can be accessed by anybody. What I like about our area, especially, I like what the Montgomery County does.
It's got a webpage.
They have a webpage with DUIs and all the arrests, and all you got to do is go to that webpage, and if you know what day this happened, you can look it right up, and there it is. But so what ends up happening is that they usually like to take over parks or places of public gathering.
Right.
So
streets.
A lot of innocent people that are in the crosshairs of this, and they're not getting protected by it. And I just think it's another escalating violence that's following a narrative that's just unhealthy for people, because what Eddie Murphy said 25 years ago was the mood and the attitude of people 25 years ago. It was acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
Now, if we have evolved away from that, then you need to leave that back there.
Right.
You can't go back in time, and there should be some.
You're going to unring the bell.
Yeah, you can't unring that bell.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, because there should be a statute of limitations on this shit, right? I mean, come on. Does he do that shit now?
Yeah,
no. So leave him alone. Now, if you're using it to hijack him, to promote a message now in order for him to make financial gain,
that's really,
extortion.
Well, that's really what it goes back to. Is they're doing this because they're wanting to reach into his pocket.
Yeah.
When he does something and now siphon money off of his project. I guarantee you that's what this is going to come down to in the end.
So, like, get it defunded in a way?
Well no, they'll say, since you made... This is what's going on in my mind behind the scenes. Eddie Murphy makes money doing whatever his project is, right? Whatever X project happens to be.
We'll forgive you if you give money to this cause.
And then since I've done this project, I've donated 10% of my proceeds to LGBT cause... whoever it is he's offended at the time. So it's I guarantee you it's an extortion racket that we've seen before and seen hundreds of times. So we had some technical difficulties there. That was entertaining. Lucy just got out of control, so Ken had to put her out. He's back now. Welcome back, Ken. We're glad to have you back on the show.
There you go. Glad to be here.
That was fun. Anytime you have a dog like that, it's always a good time.
Well, she's only 10 months old. So,
yeah. And she's wanting to participate, so she got her participation in for the day.
Unfortunately, her speaking voice isn't quite...
It's not up to par yet. We're working on that. We're going to get her a mic at some point here when she matures a little bit.
I doubt seriously she'll be on the show ever again.
Well. It was nice having you while we did it there, Lucy. It was a good time. But no, getting back to it, we were talking about this... Where you're seeing these Antifa guys come in now. My biggest fear, and what we're seeing more of, is copycats. What my biggest fear is you're going to start seeing this stuff spring up everywhere. Right now we're saying, okay, it's Portland, it's California, it's
those are the usual suspects.
That's where you go for the news for that crap, right? But at some point, like anything else, it goes down to human nature. People are going to see that, and they're going to want to emulate it. So I fear at some point you're going to start seeing it everywhere.
Well, what happens, though, is that the other side is aggressively trying to remove your ability to protect yourself.
They are.
I mean, I'm not willing to walk through public and get a concussion, or my wife get hit with a bottle.
Right.
Or somebody hit her for something that she might be wearing that they don't like.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much of that going around. It's funny, not to really digress from it, but... For a party that was supposed to be the party of inclusion and adding everybody in, and they really exclude a lot of people. You can't drive this certain car. You can't wear these certain clothes. You can't. They stack all these you can'ts on top of each other, and they've really limited you.
Yeah, well, because I think it's funny because the day of your party, I'm wearing a shirt that everybody may have like a a polo or some kind of bullshit on.
Wouldn't you use a Buddha?
Mine's Buddha that says you need to let that fucking shit go.
That's
Dude,
right,
that was the first time I'd seen that shirt, and I wanted one. That
Think
was
about
awesome.
all the things we looked at. We looked at the Malcolm X movement where everybody's wearing X's on their hats.
Yeah.
Did those guys get beat up?
No.
The only people that were violent continually was PETA.
Right.
Because PETA would feel compelled to throw shit on you.
Right.
So if you're wearing something they didn't like, they
blood.
literally
They'd
would
always throw cow pig's blood or whatever
they
it
would
was, or
attack
die
you
or
physically.
whatever.
That is never acceptable in
Right.
public. I don't care what your cause is. I don't care what you're trying to do. It's
like
not
a
acceptable.
Weird kind of attack. It's like if you're wearing a freaking fur coat, they're going to throw some kind of red paint on you. I mean,
Red paint.
because I mean, it's kind of hard for me to label that. Okay, it is a violent act, but and the way my mind works, I'm like, dude, fuck, seriously? You're gonna fuck up my coat.
Yeah, but you think about that's an expensive coat.
So wait a minute. So you would just let it happen?
No. What I'm saying is,
okay.
I'm teasing people who arrive at the course of action as, well, that motherfucker's wearing a fur coat, so I'm gonna go get myself some red paint,
right?
And I'm gonna fuck his coat up.
And the problem is nothing is done about it though. Say for example, they throw that cup of red paint and they hit you or your wife in the eye, or whoever you're with in the eye, and they're blinded.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're in the crowd and they're fucking gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So what ends up happening is so in the state of Texas, you know how assault works?
Yeah.
So if somebody runs up and hits you, you do not have the legal right to hit them back at one time.
Right.
And they changed that now.
They have changed that.
So it used to be if you got hit, you had to try to escape and report and have them arrested.
Right.
Now, if you're in fear for your life,
right,
you can
grave bodily injury.
Injury. You
grave
can use
bodily injury.
Yeah, use whatever means possible to protect yourself.
Right.
So that tells you real quick that the state legislature recognized.
Yeah,
this is going to happen.
This is coming.
This is coming.
Right.
And this is how you have to protect yourself. So what ends up happening is that you get people that go out and get trained.
Yeah.
MMA training and stuff like that. Now I can tell you that if you're going to go do that, don't say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Public disclaimer: we're not fucking lawyers.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you though, if you wear a shirt that says MMA and all this other shit,
have the militant hat on.
Yeah,
and
you choke a dude out. More than likely, they're going to use that against you in court.
Exactly.
And you got to be careful with that. So the biggest problem though is that that's usually not their target.
Yeah, that's not.
Because they know they're going to get all rolled up in that shit, right? So what ends up happening is you have all this politically correct guided material starting to unravel and turn into violent discourse. Instead of being able to debate openly,
right,
it's all about attack. And so what ends up happening is once that's done, you start moving down the path of other things.
Yep.
So like right now, and there's Mattel is introducing a neutral gender doll for your kids to play with. Now, I always thought Barbie and Ken were gender neutral anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're fucking plastic and
hey, we've all pulled the shorts down to see if,
right?
Let's see the parts.
Not anatomically correct.
Yeah.
Not at all. So I don't understand, so the marketing is where they're after on that part, right? So you have that rolling up. I don't know. I just look at some of the crazy things that they're doing out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it goes back to what I'm saying. They're trying to control everybody's behavior at this point. It's so annoying. We've just recently had the vaping epidemic come out. Now I know we're probably some of us are gonna butt heads here to a degree.
I don't think debating is butting heads.
No, it's not, and I don't mean it that way.
Yeah.
We're not gonna come to an
I
impasse.
I gave up smoking more than 10 plus years ago.
Right.
So not a big
my
deal.
my wife recently gave it up, and what got her off of it was vaping. And I know that there are potential health risks with vaping, but we don't know them all. We don't know what to degree these vapors are vaping now, to get these diseases.
If she asks you to start calling her Kyle from the
then we're gonna have a problem. Problem here, Kyle. Shut up, Karen. So anyway, but no, vaping. I think vaping helped Michelle get off of cigarettes, and I think, to me, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth, I'd rather see her vape than I would see her smoke cigarettes, because you know what the issues are with cigarettes.
Right.
We really don't know, to a large degree, what it is with vaping.
Well, yeah.
That you're going to get, and then how much you do and all that stuff probably plays a large part of it.
I will say this, that scientifically, that I guess once you get corporate America out of the way and you're able to disclose, hey, this is the dangers of smoking tobacco,
right?
And now it's common knowledge now that, hey, it does.
This is what you're going to get if you smoke long enough.
Vaping, the science. I mean, I don't think that you don't have a whole lot of case studies on vaping. But arriving at an answer or coming up with long-term answers and things that
rationale
may develop from vaping.
Yeah,
I think you'll be able to develop a coursework much sooner than it did for fucking tobacco.
Well, my big problem with it is right now, and I know you want to jump in, Ken. I'm gonna give you a chance here, but my big problem with it now is the government's regulating it. They don't regulate tobacco. You can go out and smoke all the tobacco you want. Now, granted, there's a lot of places I can't smoke, and that's government regulated. But if I want to have a cigarette, I can. I can make it to where I can have a cigarette.
Now, and everything we're espousing here is fucking opinion. We're none of us are subject matter experts in any of this fucking bullshit.
But
we've been around it, but that's it.
I've kind of, I guess, redeveloped my opinion about smoking.
But you've never smoked yourself.
I haven't. I'm not a smoker. I don't like being around smoke. I hate smoke.
Right.
I can't stand it. I hate it when Michelle smoked. I'm never going to vape. I'm not a vapor. I'm never going to take a vape pen, stick it in my mouth, and blow rings of smoke like a locomotive.
Woo woo!
Exactly.
Right. Okay. I worked for Philip Morris for 5 years.
Okay.
#1 manufacturer and seller of tobacco products in the world.
Okay.
I never used the product.
Right.
Okay. When I worked for the company, when you first start, you go through some pretty intensive training. You understand from field to consumer how the product is developed, made, marketed, and promoted. What I think is funny about it, and to their defense, it is your right.
Right.
You have the right to buy a legally consumable product and use it. The government only regulates that you have to put Surgeon General warnings on them. Okay. Each company is left up to them to develop the product that they want to develop.
But the surgeon warning came because things started coming to the surface.
So what ended up happening was, between lobbyists and consumer advocates and things like that, people that don't like something are going to make a lot of noise.
Right.
Okay. Now, I will say, I personally am not a fan of the product. It was a great way to get basically an MBA in business while you worked. That's really why most of us went there. And so what you end up doing is you end up learning a lot about the exchange between your rights as a consumer and a citizen of this country. And
that's a big part of their program when you're going through it.
Yeah,
huh?
Exactly. And you learn all about contracts, and you learn all about consumer mannerisms and all this other stuff. And you also learn about the legal side, because you're part of a lobby. You're part of a tobacco lobby group.
Okay.
And so what ended up happening is that you started getting these entities of these lawyers. So we had this huge rush of lawyers looking for shit to do. So they started suing big tobacco, representing people dying. But you have to remember, tobacco has been around since the people landed on this continent.
Right.
Okay.
That's what started the economy here.
Exactly.
I mean, if you really
tobacco, rum and tobacco
started
were like
the economy in the
biggest
States.
exchanges that went on. You had the East India Trading Company. You had all this shit going on between this commerce.
Right.
Because we had fertile soil. Now, there have been people that live into their hundreds that smoke every day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you have to remember that back in the day, this product wasn't treated with insecticides, pesticides. It wasn't chemically
heavily chemically treated like it is now.
Okay, and what ends up happening, and I know I'm trying not to talk about how cardboard was built, but I can tell you straight up that as the economic model becomes based around profit, corners start to get cut.
Yeah.
And the integrity of the product starts to diminish to a chemical synthesis.
That's interesting.
It gets replaced with chemical synthesis. So natural ingredients get replaced with synthetic ingredients, which fit a process and a profitability model.
Right.
Which I think quicker to market then.
Yeah, well, not only quicker to market, cheaper
to
produce.
Market, yeah.
I'm not paying a farmer now
bigger, better, faster.
Yes, exactly. This is where this is where science gets in. It's no different than what's happening to food, because when the tobacco lobbyists got tired of, or not tired, but they run all the big tobacco companies out, they started moving to big food.
Yeah.
They start going
When they
after...
squeeze all the cash out of tobacco,
They
move
go to
food.
another one.
Yeah.
So they're just like a herd of locusts. Trust me. They go from cause to cause to cause.
Right.
This is the problem with unchecked activism.
Right.
Okay? Because it turns into an attack on the company. So what ended up happening with the vaping community is the fact that they said, okay, fine. They're taking all the profit out of the business. Philip Morris, which is Altria, announced that they were going to get out of no more Marlboros. They're done.
Yeah.
They're moving into the vaping. So they got in with Juul. Okay? So they have this... E-cigarettes came out, so they've spent all this money trying to maintain integrity for the shareholders of these companies, right?
So this is them moving on to the next product to make money on.
Yes, they're moving on. They don't want Philip Morris and companies like that to stay. They want to stomp them completely out of existence.
Okay.
Even though a lot of them have stock in those companies.
Right.
So what ends up happening with the vaping is this alternate product comes up. It's usually invented in a garage, right, by a bunch of dudes, right? And I guarantee it was started for getting high.
Yeah.
That's really how this shit got started.
Yes.
And so now how do we make it mainstream?
Right.
Okay. So what happens is you get things rushed to market. Now the way venture capitalism works is a bunch of dudes have an idea and other dudes fund it.
Right.
Okay. The FDA is so far behind on keeping up with the regulatory side of this business
Right.
that guys are opening, the original shops were open in a garage. The bubble lung and all the people you're talking about getting sick, most of them were getting product that didn't go through manufacturer control.
Yeah, and
That's out of state.
It could be
Mexico,
anything.
stuff like that.
It could be anything.
Argentina,
It
whatever.
could be anything. There could be something in that chemical that they're breathing in that's actually a carcinogen, or does harm to your lungs. Because what you're doing is you're introducing the stuff into your lungs.
Yeah.
Now, when you replace an organic product with a synthetic product, you're asking for a lot of problems. I mean, menthol cigarettes. You can't even be in the room where they're being made.
Yeah.
Because it'll knock you out. It's that intense.
Wow.
I think it's funny because I just watched the skit the other day that Chappelle does, where he asks these people on this mock game show, is why do people smoke menthol cigarettes, and everybody keeps going back, I don't know. You are correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody.
Right. Well, I will say that the tobacco companies really did you can look at it one way or the other. They did a disservice to a community, but they also did a really good job of target marketing.
Yeah. They were smart. They were good at their job.
They knew what they were doing, and it wasn't illegal, so they proliferated it. So with vaping, what ends up happening is that you're replacing one bad habit with another habit. And like anything else, if it's used correctly and it's in progressive steps to get off of something, it usually works.
Right.
Okay? Like in your wife's case, okay?
Right.
So, because what did they have for years? They had nicotine gum and they had all this other bullshit.
Yeah.
Hypnosis, anything, right?
I did the hypnosis. That's how I quit.
Did that work?
No. It did. You know what worked?
What?
Spending $500 to quit. That's what fucking worked.
There you go. There you go. And so what ends up happening is there's an exchange of money now based on these habits. Okay. So the vaping community they've made a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of dudes have started businesses that now they're looking to sell because they're not making so much in them. So what ends up happening is they're just going to move on to the next thing. I mean, it's just a cycle. But you got to be careful, because when you start allowing the government to litigate the use of, not the manufacture of or the process controls, but the use of.
And that's where we are now. I mean, that's what we've gotten to. And I've kind of evolved my stance on things. I learned, you allow yourself to learn over the years and stuff.
Right. Part of getting older, right?
It is. But the whole drug thing, I used to be a whole, anti-drug guy. You just can't let this go into society.
Right.
And the more I look at it, the more that's such a waste of money for the government to be involved in.
Well, it's not done correctly. That's part of the problem.
I'm looking for my inner, hey, man.
Exactly.
Little Tommy Chong.
Hey, I'm never going to partake. I'm not going to be the guy that partakes.
Right.
I'm just not that guy. But I see it as such a money waste that we go through now.
So we just had a tragic wreck over on I-45 the other day. It's 5-car pileup. I don't know if y'all saw it in the news. So
was this where the old women pulled their tops up and all the cars wrecked?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this is legit. A kid, a 19 or 20-year-old kid, was high out of his mind.
Okay.
Flying down on I-45 by Cypresswood, hit a car, caused a 5-car chain reaction, flipped upside down, and crushed the skull of a 19-year-old girl.
Guarantee it wasn't somebody who was smoking weed.
He was. That's why I said he was high.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all they said, is he was high.
Yeah.
So you have this fine line. So my whole thing is the same thing as drinking and driving. So if alcoholism creates drunk drivers, which kills a higher percentage of people than anything else, what do? Take your car away from you?
Well, that's my point. You're never going to ban this behavior.
Yeah.
What really convinced me of this is my
responsibility.
Own right, and that's what really convinced me of this argument. After sitting back and looking at it, is my stance on firearms. Yeah. I made the argument for years that you're not going to legislate evil. Well, you're not going to legislate people getting high, people
morality
getting drunk.
Or habits. Yeah,
exactly. You're never going to be able to do that.
People are not going to let you take their own decisions away from them.
Exactly. And it's funny. In the end, that's what we're getting to with these political organizations. Is it's all about taking what you want to do away from you and taking that decision out of your hands.
It is. But when you look at the end of the day, though, you got to follow the money. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. It's a very delicate balance. If you go really hard one way, you lose the money.
Yeah.
If you go really hard the other way, you lose the money. So you got to find a way to make money on both sides of the transaction.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. You got guys that have figured this out, where they know that if they get enough moms, enough people all spun up on this, that's how they get you. They chase the money, and that's the only way it's going to work.
Yeah.